Okay, I'm going to officially start. This probably wouldn't take more than 30 minutes. So today I'm just going to be going over designing a survey and generating dummy data and exporting files. So when I'm talking about designing survey, I'll just go briefly over question formatting types, validation, which includes comprehension check and content validation, and recoding values and answer randomization, blocks, randomizing conditions, and previewing your survey. So the process of doing Qualtrics, I copied this off from Feedy's collaborative Qualtrics template, so you can view this on the document also. But basically, what we want you to do is sign up for Qualtrics if you haven't already, because I think Feedy mentioned several times at the start of the semester to sign up for Qualtrics. And then we want you to read the guidelines and then import the Qualtrics survey file template in a replication folder and work on this. What we want you to do is to design a survey featuring the most accurate replication of your assigned experiment from your assigned replication and extension article. After that, we want you to preview your survey to check if there's any errors, and then pre-test your survey on friends and family, get feedback and revise the survey accordingly and fix problems if there are any. Afterwards, we want you to generate random responses from Qualtrics to create a dummy data set. And then we want you to conduct your analyses on the random data set using R or Jamovi. And if you notice any problems from doing that, we want you to then revise Qualtrics or article analysis if required. So these are the important useful links for Qualtrics. If you haven't signed up, this is the link to sign up, and it's also the same link for you to log into your Qualtrics account. This is the collaborative Qualtrics guide that Feedy has created, and that's the official website from Qualtrics on how to use the survey platform. So this is really, really important. We have a customized Qualtrics template, which is customized to cater to MTurk, the US data collection platform. It already includes the consent form, the demographics, funneling questions, and debriefing section, amongst other things. And important, please use the template for your Qualtrics survey. And this is the Dropbox links. I'll show you that later because it also includes the Word document survey flow of the template. So once you've created your account, all you have to do is press the blue button that says create a new survey near the top right, and this window should pop up. So what you want to do when you're naming your survey is that we want you to include the authors, the year of the article, the phenomena or effect, the study number, and your names. So for example, just name it something like, for me, I'll probably name it something like Brown Hershey, 1988, outcome bias study 1, Kristy. After that, we want you to upload the QSF template from the Dropbox file by clicking on From a File and Choose File. Do let me know if I'm speaking too fast. When creating questions, it's also pretty straightforward. Just put in your question in this box here and add your answers and choices in the options below. But do remember when you're writing your answer and choices, this is really important also, to include both the label and the number scale. So for example, agree 3 and neutral 2 or disagree 1, something like that. You can also use the rich content editor to add your question, and I'm going to talk about formatting next. This is also very important. But before you do that, if you want to add more questions, just click on the green button and that should add another question for you directly. So formatting. This needs to be consistent across all questions, especially when you have copy and pasted. And it's very likely you'll copy and paste from the original article or from the materials the original authors have provided us with. So to remove formatting, you'll have to click on this button. If there's nothing wrong with formatting, this button shouldn't show up. Alternatively, you can just click on Rich Content Editor, and click on this button to remove formatting. After you've removed formatting, do also proofread the question, because sometimes when you copy and paste stuff, there might be odd hyphens or spaces or other punctuation marks that shouldn't be there. So, question types. As you can see from a couple of slides back, the default Qualtrics as set for question is multiple choice. If you need to change a question type, click on your question and go to the panel on the right. You'll see that you can change question types here. When you click on it, this window will pop up. And as you can see, there are a variety of different question types. For your replication extension assessment, we want you to focus on static content and standard questions only. And another thing to note that if you have more than 10 items or questions that need to be rated on the same scale, use the matrix table. And when you're choosing matrix table, remember to choose repeat headers with the option middle. This is really important. So on the same panel on the right, you'll also see validation options, and there's a forced response option. You will have to select this for almost all of your questions, except for did you spot any errors, anything missing or wrong, or something we should pay attention to in the next runs? This question is in the funneling section. If I remember correctly, it should be the last question, so just deselect forced response for this one. Do be careful to select forced response and not request response. That's another option for validation options. Forced response ensures that the respondent has to answer a question before they move on to the next page. But for request response, it merely gives a notification to the respondent that they haven't answered a question and that they have the choice to skip that question and move on to the next page. So keep in mind to choose forced response and not request response. So validation types. This is also on the panel right, and we only want you to select this, the custom validation, when you're having comprehension checks. I'm going to talk about comprehension checks in the next slide and provide an example. So this is a comprehension check example from Ziano et al. 2020. The text says that, imagine that you are a government official of a small developing country and you are asked to evaluate 6 government programs, Program A, B, C, D, E, and F. All the 6 programs cost about the same and all are being considered for funding. Details of each programs are explained in the following. So the comprehension check question is, how many government programs are presented in this scenario? The answer says 3, 6, and 9. And if you read the text properly, the answer should be 6. So as you can see from the example, they've chosen forced response, and then they've clicked custom validation. When you've clicked custom validation, a window like this should pop up. And as you can see, it only says that validation will pass if a certain condition is met. So according to Ziano et al.'s condition, the respondent should select 6 before they should be able to move on to the next page. Okay, so content validation. This is only applicable for text entry answers only. So this option shouldn't pop up for the other answer choices. And this is an example from Liu et al. 2019. So the question is, we would like you to estimate as accurately as you can what percentage of your peers would donate blood if they were not paid. Please answer a number from 0 to 100. So in order to restrict your respondents to answer a content-specific answer, so in this case, a number, just click on content validation and specify your content type, which is number in this case, and then provide a minimum and maximum number in the numeric format section. So, recoding values. By default, the first answer is assigned a value of 1, and the second answer is assigned a value of 2, and the third answer is assigned a value of 3, and so on. this might not correspond to your actual scale for your questionnaire. So this is really important. And when you might be adding items or deleting one and delete one item and adding more items, it can also mess up your coded values. This might not make sense, but I'll show you later. It might be clearer then. But either way, both of these will affect your data analysis if the values don't tally with your scale number. So in order to recode the values, you have to go to your question, and on the panel on the left, you'll see the settings button. Click on that and click on recode values, and the recode values window should pop up. And this is like a tiny example. So this degree should have a scale number of 0, but as you can see, Qualtrics assigned it a number of 1. So in order to recode it, just press on the recode values button right there, and it should allow you to edit everything else. So onto randomization. It's likely that you'll have to randomize your answers for your respondents. To do that, you'll also have to go to the settings button on the panel on the left and click on randomization, and just click on display answers in a random order. And that's it. That's pretty straightforward, but do remember to save it. So, icon meanings. If you chosen a validation option for your answer, the icon with the asterisk should show up. If you've randomized your answers, this arrow thing with the flow-like field would show up. And if you've recoded your values, this icon with an X and an arrow will also show up. And they also serve as shortcuts. If you want to change something, just click on them and it should pop up the respective windows for you. And if you want to separate questions on the next page to make things easier for your respondent, or just to make your questionnaire look less long, all you have to do is just go to the panel on the right of your question and click on Add Page Break under Actions. So, blocks. Blocks are for randomly or conditionally showing a group of questions. So what we want is for you to have one block for one condition. So for instance, you could have a control group or experimental group. So each of those groups have one block. And to add a block, it's pretty straightforward. You would see an add block button right below a block. So just click on that and another block will show up. But another important thing to remember is that you should assign meaningful block names to your blocks. So for example, I might rename this as a control condition and rename the other one as the experimental condition block. After you've finished making your blocks, it's likely that for a between subjects condition, you might only want to show one or two of your conditions to your respondent, or within subjects one, you want to show all 3 conditions to your respondent, but in a randomized order. To do so, you'll have to use this randomizer from the survey flow. And as you can see from the slide, it's for randomly presenting question blocks and other survey elements. To access this, you'll have to click on survey flow, and this window with the survey flow will pop up. It will show all of the blocks and other survey elements in a summary for you. To add the randomizer, just click Add Below within your block, or click on Add a New Element here. Once you've done that, a yellow box would show up, and all you have to do is to click on the purple one that says Randomizer, and the randomizer box would show up. As you can see here, it says randomly present an X number of the following elements. So the number you want to put in here is the number of blocks or conditions you want to show your respondents. So as a previous example, if you want to show one condition out of 3 conditions to your respondent, just put 1 there. If you want to show all 3 of your conditions, just put 3 here. You can also select this evenly present element choice This allows Qualtrics to present each block or condition around an equal number of times across respondents. But if you want to show it's an uneven number of times, all you have to do is select this option and click Edit Count to change the uneven flow. So, once you've finished designing your survey, what we want you to do is to preview your entire survey. To preview your entire survey, just click on the preview button near the top right. We want you to rerun the survey at least per number of conditions. So for example, if you have 3 conditions, we want you to run the survey at least 3 times. And why we want you to preview the survey is so that you can check whether comprehension check, the randomization, and the validation works as intended. And it also helps to check if the scale answers that you've put is shown clearly. And when you're working on your survey, you might want to preview the individual questions. To do that, just go on the Graph panel on the right and click on Preview Questions under Actions. So after you finish designing your survey and previewing it and everything seems fine, we want you to generate test responses. These are dummy data, so they don't actually hold any actual research value. So why we want you to generate test responses is that we want you to check how your dataset or reports will look, but do note that custom validation will not work for these responses. Generating test responses will also help you with designing data analysis plan because you're going to use R Jamovi to analyze it. So in order to generate test responses, you'll have to go to Tools and click on Review and click on Generate Test Responses. This Generate Test Response window will pop up, and you'll want to enter the required number of participants in this box. If I remember correctly, in Feely's collaborative guide, he said that you should enter the number you've generated from your power analysis. If you haven't conducted your power analysis by then, you should probably input 1,000 as Feely has suggested. After you've inputted the number, just click Start Test. Afterwards, the window for generating test responses will pop up with saying how many test iterations are remaining and how many are saved. I think Feely has mentioned his guide also that if the number is too big, I think already around 1,000, Qualtrics may sometimes lag or stop generating test responses. So if that happens, don't worry. Just click on Data Analysis and wait for a couple of minutes and see how many responses are saved. After that, just go back to Generate Test Responses and generate the number that's missing. So, exporting data. Once you've generated test responses, do click on the Data and Analysis tab, but you probably have to wait around a minute or two for Qualtrics to finish generating the data or at least loading it. But once that's all loaded, what you have to do is to click on Import and Export and click on Export Data. And when the Download Data table pops up, what you want to do is select the SPSS option. This allows you to download the SPSS SAV file. And we want you to download the SPSS file because it's readable by R and Jamovi. So when you download it as an SPSS file, remember to click Download All Fields. This is important. But if you can't download as an SPSS file, the second resort will be to use a CSV file. So when you choose a CSV file, remember to use numeric values instead of choice text. And the reason why the CSV file is a second resort is because it can get quite messed up depending on what software you're uploading it to. Another thing to note is that when you download the SPSS file, it usually by default downloads it as a zip file. If you don't want that to happen, just click on More Options. And this window should show up where you have to scroll down and just deselect compressed data as a zip file, then you'll be fine. So after you've done all that, for your replication extension assessment, if I remember correctly, you'll have to provide both the QSF file and the docx file in a Dropbox link, I think, for the supplementary. I don't remember correctly, but yeah. To do that, you have to press on Tools and click Import and Export. And for a QSF file, it's pretty straightforward. Just click on Export Survey. For the Word document, just click on Export Survey to Word. And then this Export Survey to Word window will pop up. By default, most of these options should be selected, except for Show Logic and Show Survey Flow. So what we want you to do is to select Show Logic and Show Survey Flow, because these are pretty important to view when it's on the document. So do keep that in mind. So these are the references for today's tutorial. I'm now going to briefly show you Philly's template of the survey. So give me a moment. Great. So as you can see, this is your Dropbox link for the survey template. And this is what a Word document format of the survey would look like. So it will show all of the contents there. So remember to, after you finish your survey, to download the Word document. And this is the template that we want you to download and upload to Qualtrics. So I'll show you briefly how that works. So remember when you name your project title, to remember the author names and years. And then what you want to do is just to upload the template and click Get Started. So as you can see, that's the template and there's a consent. I don't think you need to change anything in the consent, so you can leave it. But as you can see in the study outline verifications block, this study outline is generic. So do remember to tailor it to your replication extension article. And as you can see from the icons, Feely's chosen force response and choice randomization and recoded his values, so that's good. And there's the funneling questions. And yeah, this is the question that you don't have to choose force response for, so you can just uncheck that. And as you can see, there's the demographic questions and the debriefing and the pay feedback stuff. So where you want to add your own block and your questions should probably be above the funneling section. So just click on that add block there, and then just create your questions and your blocks conditions required. So as you can see, the default is a multiple choice question. I'm going to show you briefly what I meant by the recode values by the adding and deleting thing. So for instance, there's three choices here. If I delete number 2 and add 3 more options, you can see it's not in chronological order. And it's more obvious when you go to recode values. And you can see that it's not chronological at all. So it might cause problems when you do your data analysis. So do remember to recode your values. And what we meant by creating a matrix table, a matrix table looks like this. And let's see, let's imagine I have 15 questions all rated on the same scale. It would look like this. it's much easier to make a matrix table instead of making 15 different single multiple choice questions. And what we meant by making repeat headers is to click that. It's so that the headers will be repeated, so it's going to be made easier for the respondents to remember the scales. I'll just show you briefly the survey flow. So this is what the survey flow will look like if you remember to use the Qualtrics template. And I think there's already a randomizer added. So what you want to do is to just simply move your conditions or blocks on the randomizer and just edit it accordingly to your replication. But when you do this, do remember to save. It's pretty important. And another thing that I might have forgotten to say earlier is that in addition to renaming your blocks to a meaningful block name, do remember to rename your questions with a meaningful label also. So as you can see from Feely's template, he put native when he's asking about whether you're a native English speaker and stuff like that. So I don't think I have anything else to show you. So that's the end of today's tutorial. It's pretty fast, but do you guys have any questions? If you don't, you're free to leave.